Hello, everyone. My name is Emmanuel. I'm an EdTech specialist, and I'm happy to be with you today to share some thoughts on apps and young users. Our youngsters now spend a lot of time on the internet, playing games, connecting on social media with friends and sometimes with strangers, and a lot of other activities are currently happening on the internet using apps. And we also have to remember that our youngsters face a lot of dangers and risks when using these apps. And this discussion is meant to, enlighten us on some of these apps and how they can possibly negatively affect our youngsters. And also look at how we can put in place some safeguards to ensure that our young ones, our children, don't fall prey to predators and also to certain things that might end up, being inimical to their well-being and their welfare. For starters, why should we be concerned about what is happening with apps on the internet? It's because I'm sure that most of you would agree with me that it's become very, very common to hear news about child pornography on the internet, violence on the internet, sextortion, cyberbullying, and other risks, including hoaxes, hate speech, disinformation, even suicide, as well as screen addiction. These are very worrisome factors that we need to be very much aware of. And then also do our very best to protect our young ones from these problems. There are three apps that I am personally very concerned about because of the risks that come with using these apps, especially for our young ones. And I have put the icons of these apps on this slide. The first is Discord, the second is Hoop, the third is Roblox. These apps are being currently used by youngsters for gaming, for social media connections, etc., etc. But there are some specific dangers and risks that I would like to briefly touch on in the next slide. Discord, for instance, is a place where teens hang out and talk about gaming. But the problem there is that it can expose kids to all sort of inappropriate content, from hate speech to pornography to bullying and also to online predators. Is described consistently as being in the top 5 platforms for bullying, suicidal ideation, body image shaming, and even more. I've put links to some current news on Discord, and one of them is from Deutsche Welle, I think the German news outlet, talking about why this particular app is under scrutiny and how come that is being banned in a number of countries. The other news items talks about the dark side that parents need to know about Discord. The next one is Hoop. Hoop allows kids as young as 12 to form connections with strangers, and that in itself alone is a big problem. When they swipe through profiles, they are able to see, you know, persons that they would like to start a conversation with, and who knows where these conversations end up going. I've also put links to two news items here that talks about the dangers of Hoop, as well as the fact that Hoop is one of the most dangerous apps for kids. These are very concerning matters that we cannot ignore as parents. The third one is Roblox, which is a very popular game with kids aged 5 to 12. The problem with Roblox is that kids can run into inappropriate content while playing on Roblox. This can include profanity, sexual content, drugs, alcohol, and more. Another particular matter of concern I have with Roblox is the simulated violence you find on this game, where players can kill or be killed. Roblox has got real problems. And I put here links to two news items, current news items that describe Roblox as a real life nightmare for children. And also talks about the dangers that lurk for long social media users in chat rooms like Roblox. I also want to quickly mention that the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, has some resources that can help us, address some of the problems I've just listed with these three apps. Some of the resources include safe online surfing, cyber safety tips, as well as some resources for parents, caregivers, and teachers, on how we can protect our kids online, even if the kids are using these apps. We need to make sure that we carefully monitor them, and we also need to make sure that they don't fall prey to these predators that we are all concerned about. I would also like to mention the fact that in our various states, there are attorney generals that have resources that we could also, make use of. In Ghana, for instance, our attorney general is Dr. Ayine, and there are some resources on his website. Unfortunately, because of the change in administration, the website is not currently up, mainly because of the fact that they are revamping the website. But hopefully, once the website is up and running, I'll be able to pull down some more resources on that website to help us address some of these online concerns for our children. There are a few warnings that I think that it's important that we keep at the back of our minds going forward with, with respect to our children's activities online. First one I'd like to quickly touch on is the fact that the American Psychological Association urges us as parents to recognize that the brains of our children are vulnerable. We need to understand that there are certain things that can have a very negative effect on their brains, especially on social media. So, carefulness is critical because when a child is unsupervised, one thing a child might do is to upload embarrassing or provocative photos or videos of themselves. And the internet does not forget. They can even share personal information with predators. These are serious warnings. And another thing that it's important for us to note as parents is that we must know our child's temperament and the media that the child is drawn to because children are different and experience different risks online. And this warning is coming from the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. So these are just a few highlights of some warnings that parents should be mindful of as their children engage online with these various apps that I've just mentioned. There are a lot more apps, but I think that limiting myself to these three, it's will be helpful for our purposes today. What are some safeguards that we can put in place to make sure that our children are protected on the internet? Because whatever it is, our children will have to use the internet and will be using the internet for various activities. First one I'd like to quickly talk about is a recommendation from the American Academy of Pediatrics. They recommend that we should limit children's use of entertainment based apps to 2 hours maximum, 2 hours of screen time maximum per day. And the parents should also take a more active role in monitoring their children's social media usage. Secondly, parents should stay informed about how their children are interacting with these applications. It's not enough to just talk to the child. You have to know about the apps that children are using. So let's go beyond just talking to the children and also, being familiar with the apps. For instance, YouTube has got an app called YouTube for Kids. It's preferable that they use that. And then there's also child safety videos online that they can also use. But I specifically want to touch on three tools that are very helpful for them to use. I'm talking about parents to, employ on various devices to monitor their children's internet use. One is back costs about $6 per month, which might sound a bit expensive, but it is worth the cost because your child's well-being is very important. The next one is Net Nanny, which costs about $11 per device per year, which I think is very affordable. Custodio, however, is something that can be downloaded free of charge. So these are apps that can help parents monitor the content of the things that the children are using on those apps. I want to thank you very much for your time. I hope that this bit of information would help us carefully monitor our children's online activities and protect them from a lot of problems. Thank you so much for your time. God bless you.